All right, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Jay, of course, here with Unfair Sports. We got a special guest today. We got my guy Couz from Couz's Corner. We're going to talk about the Oklahoma-West Virginia game this weekend. So we're giving you guys a special preview episode on the podcast as well as here on the YouTube channel. So please, thank you for joining us. Hit that like button if you need to chance, subscribe. And if you're listening, rate, review, give us 5 stars. You think we deserve it. Just give us 5 anyway and gift it. And so, Couz, let the people know where they can find you and tell everybody hi.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? And Jay, thank you for having me on again, man. It's always a pleasure to sit down and chop it up about college football. But you can find me on YouTube at Couz's Corner. It's COUZ' Corner. Find me on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Couz206. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. You can find me wherever you feel froggy. But exactly. And I have a website too. I forget to plug that sometimes, but I have a website, Couz'sCorner.com, and I have a basketball channel called Hoops from the Hills.
Okay, all right, yeah, Couz, you doing it all. And basketball season's starting up.
Yes, sir.
No things are getting interesting there, but let's talk ball. Let's talk some football, college football. It has been a season. We're wrapping things up. Basically 3 weeks left in the season itself. Preparations going towards conference championship games. And I'm going to be honest, Couz, we talked about this before the season started, and we talking now. This ain't what either one of us thought was going to happen for your Mountaineers.
No.
Talk to me, man. What about this team looks different than what we anticipated going into the season?
You got a bunch of guys that have rallied around their coach. You got a bunch of guys who have rallied, around each other. They have taken, they were picked dead last in the conference by most preseason prognosticators, including their own conference media. And they did not take kindly to that. And they felt very disrespected by it, especially considering we have 4 new teams coming in the conference who were a group of 5 teams a year ago. And they all thought we were going to be worse than even them. And they took it personal. And they've made that their rallying cry, so to speak. And it's been a chip on their shoulder the entire season, and man, it's been a good one. And you just got a bunch of guys who are playing hard for their coach and for each other, and so here we are, 6-3, 1 game out from being in first place for the conference title, with an outside chance, obviously to get there. So yeah, I mean, most people never gave us a chance to even get to a bowl game, much less where we are now at 6-3.
No, that's a fair point. You need some Big 12 chaos, which I anticipate is going to be chaos at the top. I don't expect it to stay the way it is. So if chaos does ensue, there's a good chance for you all to make a surprise push in the back end. But going 6-3 to start, 4-2 in conference, no, that is. I mean, I guess the team that honestly ended up being the massive disappointment is Baylor so far, because they're right in the middle of all of the new members of the conference with Houston, BYU, UCF, and Cincinnati. They're dead smack in the middle at the bottom of the barrel. Right. And you're right. People were quite disrespectful to West Virginia. I had you guys higher than that. I think the team that I thought was going to be the worst in the conference of the ones returning to the Big 12, the old heads in the conference, honestly, I thought it was going to be Iowa State, and they're shocking us too.
Yeah, I did too. I picked them to finish, I think, 12th or 13th in the league, man.
Woo! So. Yeah, with everything they had going on, it makes sense. But I guess Matt Campbell is back to proving that he is a lot better coach than we want to give him credit for. But speaking of coaches, Neil Brown was the conversation of being fired this year. I mean, how is the conversations now there in the world of West Virginia? And we'll talk a little bit about Matt Campbell as well.
Well, we pretty much, the sentiment is, and it's still mixed, because there's still a lot of people, because of the last 4 years, that are reluctant to say, yeah, we need to keep him. But then you've got the other side who are like, yeah, we've got to keep him because he's shown improvement. The team looks much better. Like you and I were talking off air, the eye test, they're passing the eye test. And then, but majority of fans are like, look, he's good now. We're 6-3. If he can finish this season out on a positive note, then yeah, let's ride with him another year. We have a lot of young talent on this team. We have a lot of true freshmen even that are playing for us this year and playing big roles for us. So majority of the fan base, I think, is at the point now where they're like, okay, we need to see this thing through with him now that he's shown that he can change and that he can improve.
Yeah, that's a good thing is he's get the opportunity's been given to him and he's starting to show that. And I noticed like with your passing game right now, we'll talk about Garrett Green, which he gave us hell last season while we was out there with you all in a quote unquote monsoon / snowstorm / ice storm / gross storm when we played. And this season it appears that I mean he's taking the reins and he's trying to do it. Talk to me about that offense. What does it look
Yeah.
like for you all, and we can kind of compare that with our D.
Yeah, we West Virginia runs the ball. I mean, they run the ball about 60% of the time, a little over 60% actually. So they're going to run the football. That's their number one goal. They want to run the ball. That includes Garrett with some QB run game. As you saw last year, he's very good at that. But what's been great about this offense this year, and it's really is the passing game. Our passing game has been even better than anticipated. Yeah, Garrett has shown that he can throw the ball. Now he's not the most accurate quarterback out there. He's completing just over 50% of his passes, but he's really good on the deep balls, and he throws a cannon. He's got a rocket arm. But if he can just get a little bit more accurate on the short and intermediate stuff, he's going to be really dangerous. So, but the run game is going to be our bread and butter.
No, and I noticed that you guys are pretty balanced too. I mean, you're at about 200 passing, about 211 rushing. So with over 400 yards per game, you guys are keeping it super balanced across the board. But at the same time, you all make the game slow. Like it's like you grind it down. It's obviously being successful. You're 6-3. So for Garrett, it appears that the thing that Oklahoma's going to have to do is make that man throw the ball a lot. And that's not something he does a lot of. Like you said, I mean, he's completing about 53% of his passes, which isn't bad. He's still learning. He's still young, which is a good thing. You know, him taking over the job from JT Daniels last year was when I saw that, I was like, man, I really hope he doesn't play against Oklahoma. And sure enough, he played against us and went out there and was scrambling all over the darn place. But he's showing some improvements each week. And last week against BYU, man, y'all just dominated them. My goodness, like it's just pure dominance. Talk to me about that line. I know that if I'm correct, there's a couple of guys on there that we're talking NFL for on that offensive line.
Yeah, Zach Frazier's number is where it starts. He's our All-American center. Probably going to be anywhere from second to fourth round draft pick is kind of what, depending on which service you read, which draft expert you read, right? And he's where it all starts. He's one of the only centers in the league you'll see that will pull on a play. How often you see a center pull? Zach Frazier will pull. He does a good job of getting to the second level, but then we have two tackles that are really, really good too. One of which will probably definitely play on Sundays, and that's Wyatt Milam. He's our left tackle. He's a junior. I think he's our highest graded offensive lineman this year as far as Pro Football Focus goes. And then our right tackle, Doug Nestor, has missed the last game and a half or so with an injury. We're not sure if he'll be back yet or not. We expect him to be. But it's probably going to be a game time decision, or Coach Brown may just not want to tell us who it's going to be. But even with that, Nick Malone, his backup, has actually done a really good job stepping in. But in a game like, with a team like Oklahoma, who's got the talent that you guys have, we're going to need those guys to be at full strength if at all possible. And our guards are okay too. Tomas Remak and Brandon Yates, they're not too shabby. But really, those three guys that I mentioned are the ones that really lead that offensive line.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then in the run game, you got C.J. Donaldson as well as Jaheim White. Tell me about Jaheim. He's starting to blossom. It looks like
he is. I mean, we a lot of us in the fan base kind of saw this coming. If you watch the spring game, he just blew. He jumped off the screen at you, man. He looks explosive. He's shifty, can make people miss, and he's small too. So he's got that low center of gravity. Kind of like Deuce Vaughn. I'm not saying he's as good as Deuce Vaughn, but he's built like he's kind of got that same running style. Kind of reminds you of him a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he's got a long way to get there to be Deuce Vaughn, but he has the ability to be that good. But the last 2 weeks he's really blossomed. CJ started off the season really good. Kind of had a few games in the middle of the season where he kind of just didn't play up to his expectations. But then he's hit over 100 yards the last 2 weeks. But those two guys, they're totally different running styles, so it gives us kind of a thunder and lightning type backfield back there, which is a good change of pace and makes it hard for the defenses. So we're excited about those guys. Yeah, and Jaheim White's a true freshman, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that.
Yeah, he is, and that's what I was looking at him when I saw that. I was like, "Who is this little kid? He's a little small," but then I saw, oh wait, he's a true freshman. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, 5'7", maybe 192 pounds, which is kind of a big size dude for a short guy.
Yeah, he ran for $146 last week against BYU.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm recognizing that we're gonna have to keep our eyes on, because I mean, we know what Deuce Vaughn did to everybody, and if this freshman is getting close to being that talented at that size, he's gonna be terrifying. And I pulled it up, and on PFF, he's the highest graded offensive player for y'all right now over the last 8 games. Yep. Him and Green. Green is actually grading very well. He's just gotta get more accurate. I guess you could say his consistency is what he needs to do.
Right.
And, at a junior, I think he'll get there.
Yeah, he doesn't. Garrett, everything he throws is 100 miles. He doesn't throw a changeup, is the way Coach Brown describes it. Everything's a fastball for him. So if he needs to put touch on a ball, he has a tendency to overthrow those because he just doesn't put the right touch on it.
Makes sense.
But he'll get there, But now something 20, 30 yards downfield or more, he's usually money.
That's a good point. All right, let's look at that defense, though, because I know that for Oklahoma, on the defensive side of the ball, it appears that we may get Stutzman back, so we may have our quarterback on the defensive side of the ball. But we've been playing a ton of young guys on defense, and so getting into those gaps and hopefully slowing down that run game is going to be the key thing for us. Make Garrett Green beat us with the fastball, like you said. Make him throw the ball a lot. That's something we're going to have to work on.
That's what Houston did.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I mean,
that's true.
Which we honestly, we still should have won the game. We still scored over 40 points. So we answered the bell. But Houston's defense is not as good as you guys, so that's not a great comparison. But Houston did try it, and we did have some success at it. But again, Houston's defensive secondary is nowhere near as talented as yours. So
yeah, right now, exactly. Yeah, and it looks like we're gonna get Gentry Williams back. He's going to play. So is Billy Bowman, Reggie Pierce. So we've got a lot of our veteran presence in the secondary going to play. So that's going to help, because last week against Oklahoma State, we played a lot of red shirt and true freshmen. And of course, they're the easiest ones to bait into making mistakes, because I mean, they don't have the experience to recognize when a bait's coming. But I'm looking at you all defensively, man. Lawton, was that Zaquai Lawton? He's one. I think he played just a little bit the other day. But Beanie Bishop, talk to me about him in the secondary. He's one of y'all's highest graded
Beanie Bishop
right now.
He's he'll make a West Virginia fan's eyes light up, man. We picked him up out of the transfer portal. He's a grad transfer from Minnesota.
Oh,
and he's absolutely he leads the country in pass breakups and passes defended. And I think last time I looked, he was top 10 in interceptions as well. But he's a really good cover corner out there, man. He's only 5'10", but he can stay with guys, and he's really good at making plays on the ball as well. So we're excited about him, man. He's been a huge addition for Coach Brown out of the portal.
Okay, it makes sense, and that's an argument that I always like to make to a lot of people when it comes to a corner. Just because that they are listed at 5'10" doesn't mean that they're not good, right? Everybody's like, 5'9", 5'10", they're too small, they're gonna get beat up by big receivers. Nah, they're the ones that they've been fighting their whole lives, so they have no problem with going out there and trying to muscle somebody bigger than them, because they consider the little guy everywhere, So
and he allows them to play some man to man, which they don't typically haven't been able to do in the past. They can do that with him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. He is one of those that can keep up with some of the bigger receivers and stuff. And so for us, it's going to get vertical. We got to get vertical. But he's played a lot of football, like you mentioned. I mean, he came from Minnesota. He played at Western Kentucky before that. And so he's got experience. And I know that veteran presence has really helped y'all on the defensive side of the ball, because that's kind of where you're seeing the big plus out of West Virginia this season.
It is. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, and he's come in and been a good leader too, like you mentioned. His leadership skills have really helped the younger guys on that defense too.
Yeah, and so even from the bounce back from the Penn State game going into the season, I mean, Penn State's top 10 in the country right now. You all gave a fight, but since then, it's been just consistent on the defensive side. You guys have been holding people to under 25 points up until you kind of got to the Houston and Oklahoma State game. Felt like those were probably just the teeter, but you went back to it defensively against UCF. 28 points against them, and then BYU only giving up 7. Now I have to ask that: is BYU just that bad, or did y'all just y'all was able to turn up the heat on them more?
I think it was a mixture of both. I mean, BYU did have a lot of guys out that game, which I mean we did too. So I'm not going to make excuses for them, but they I mean their quarterback was out too. Keaton Slovis was injured. Their top receiver was injured, and I think they might have had a guy or two out on the defensive side of the ball too. But it was, I mean, we outmanned them in the trenches, man. That was the main thing. We just
y'all seen Slovis before because he was at Pitt last year, right?
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not all that great, but he's better. But he's better than they had to play a JUCO transfer who had never taken a snap at the Power 5 level, so their playbook was limited.
Makes sense. And so that's kind of where you get Benny Bishop, and then you got Anthony Wilson out there at the safety spot. Mm-hmm. Talk to me about the rest of that secondary, even going into the linebacker corps. Who's some players to really keep an eye on for fans watching you all?
Well, number one, Lee Koba. He's going to be he's plays like a man possessed out there. He's going to wreak a lot of havoc in the backfield at times. He's also good in the run game. He's our leading tackler. You got Aubrey Burks, number 2, is a safety who has a good chance to play on Sundays in a couple of years. He came into the league or came into the season as the second highest graded safety from last year, according to Pro Football Focus. He's not graded out quite as high this year, but some of that's because he missed some time with injury, and it took him a couple games to get back. Right. But he's very talented, and he's coming off a 93 grade last week against BYU. So
yeah, that's true.
And then one of our starting linebackers, Trey Lathan, has actually been out for the year from a season-ending injury, but in his place has been a true freshman named Ben Cutter, who had a rough start first couple games, man. But I tell you, the last couple weeks, he's really come on strong for us and had a couple really good weeks. And his future looks bright, but he's also playing good football right now too. So he's number 15. So look out for him as well. He's all over the field.
Yep. Looking at Ben Cutter now, he out here grade wise. I mean, he's in the 60s overall, and he's pretty consistent across the board. And so, like you said, as a freshman, that's the hard position to play. Especially linebacker. To me, linebacker, strong safety. Those are two spots I don't like a lot of freshmen playing unless they're going to just be just rushers, right? Rushing is easy. You just go get the quarterback or go get the running back in the backfield. Don't think, just go. But if you got them out there having to make decisions and getting out of their zone or picking the man that they need to follow, the freshmen are very easy to trick. I mean, you can trick seniors, but at the same time, freshmen, they're still, gaining that experience. And so it's good to see when you can see them starting to pick it up, and then that next season, they're going to be something special, whatnot. But you all are pretty young, so there's still some youth out there.
That's why we're excited about, and we feel like Brown will probably get a chance to stay because he recruited all these young guys. They're performing well. Give him a chance to see what he can do once these guys get to be, sophomores, juniors, seniors. Assuming they all stay, we know what the portal, who knows, right? But yeah, we feel good about the future here, man. Because we have a lot of young talent on this team. Cutter being one of those.
Right, and then the good thing about even with the portal, when you're playing the young guys, that's the okay. I'm going to be able to play here, so I'm probably going to stick around because this is a great chance for me to play today. You may start losing some of your veteran presence, which you bring in another vet, they can come in and try to compete, but the young guys probably the ones that's going to get most of the run. So pass rush. Talk to me about that defensive line. I mean, you guys got a few guys that got some solid grades here. Who are we looking at in this rush that we need to keep our eyes on, especially at the edge?
Yeah, Sean Martin is a defensive end, 6'5", 290, big guy, really long arms, really long. He's been taking up a lot of double teams the last few weeks, which has allowed Lee Koba and some of these other linebackers to get pressure, even some of our safeties to get pressure. They do like to blitz Marcus Floyd, our safety number 24, quite often too. He does a good job, and then we've got a bandit position. It's kind of a stand-up edge position, kind of a quasi outside linebacker spot. Jared Bartlett has had a really good year there this year. He's a fifth or sixth year guy. He's been in the program a while, but he's having his best season as a Mountaineer. He's been getting in the backfield a lot. He doesn't have a lot of sacks, but he's getting in the backfield a lot and causing quarterbacks to have to, he's getting them out of the pocket, making them have to step up in the pocket or rush out of the pocket and, forcing them to make some bad decisions at times. So that's been good. And then our other two starting defensive linemen are Edward Vester-Rennan and Mike Lockhart at the defensive tackle and nose tackle spots. And both of those guys are having a really solid year too. The cool thing about our defensive front, I tell everybody about this because it's very unique. We go about 9 or 10 deep, if not 11 deep, on the defensive front, and with a very little drop off. So it's that's one reason in this game. I know the Sooners like to play hurry up offense when they can. So if Oklahoma was able to get into a rhythm and you guys are able to play your hurry up offense, it'll keep some of those linemen on the field longer than they probably want to and wear them down. So it's going to be critical for us to keep you guys behind the chains.
But the good thing is, as you just mentioned, you've got that competitive depth to where you can rotate guys. The moment that we need to rotate, you're immediately going to refresh.
Right.
And they can still play at a high level. That's really the best counter to a tempo offense is having a second layer that too deep that can actually play as good as the starters, and if you don't have a drop off. And that's kind of the goal of the tempo is you get them exhausted, starters exhausted, bring in the next unit, and then you just exploit the hell out of them.
Yeah,
and that's tough whenever you got, like you mentioned, enough players that are playing at a high level. You're not going to be able to get past that. That helps battle it against that tempo. Like I remember when OU played against Clemson in the playoffs, playing against Brent Venables back in the day, and that was one of the things they did. They just started wearing out the line, just weighing on them, and because we couldn't go another level deep, second half it was over. They just started just punching them in the mouth and gone, and so having that helps.
It does. Now, on the flip side of that, we're not deep at linebacker and we're not deep in the secondary. So those guys may get worn down, but those guys being a little bit smaller, probably don't get worn down quite as bad. But I kind of feel like that happened a little bit in the Oklahoma State game. I mean, we gave up 150 yards rushing in the fourth quarter to Ollie Gordon. And 28
Well, I don't know, man. That's Ollie Gordon, though. At this point, we're all recognizing that dude's a dude.
He is. He is a dude. And we didn't know that yet. Because I think we were the first team he'd done that against, but since then he's went on a tear. But no, we missed a lot. I mean, even though he's great, we know that he's a dude, but our guys also missed a lot of tackles, and it looked like they just got worn down. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if that was a reason or if it was just poor execution. But if you can get in that if your guys can get in that second and third level, and late in the game, you might have a chance to break a big one.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And we're starting to get our run game now better. Our young running backs are getting healthier, and the confidence seems to be coming back. I mean, Salchuk had over 100 yards in the last game, and Tyree Walker, who now his ankle is getting better. I mean, he had a 23-yard run to start the game, to only just hand off first run, boom, he's gone.
Yeah.
And so for us, attrition has been kicking our tail. We have not been healthy the last 3 weeks. We did not come out of that Texas game unscathed at Red River, and some of our guys we're starting to get back to we're not as thin as we were, and I think that's going to be helpful, especially in this game. As I mentioned, I know that you all your run game is pretty high powered. Those two backs, Donaldson, White, it's going to be something that we've got to slow down, and we got to force Green to beat us. Got to let that dude throw that fastball, and hopefully our corners can bait them into something. So that's going to be critical, but as you mentioned, on your defensive side, if we can get into that second level, we may be able to wear down those linebackers and safeties because right now you're just thin. But when you guys get healthier going down, it should be fine. So let's talk about as the season wraps up. You got us this weekend, of course, but then Cincinnati comes out there and you travel to Baylor to wrap the season. How do you feel about going into those last 2 games of the season for your Mountaineers?
I mean, look at those games on paper. After the game with you guys, I mean, we theoretically should win both of those games. I mean, Baylor is struggling right now, home and away. Actually. I mean, being at home is not even helping them a lot, to be honest with you. They're bad. And I hate it from my Baylor friends, but they are struggling. And then and nobody saw that coming, right? not to that degree anyway.
Yeah, I thought Aranda was going to be able to,
Mm-hmm.
keep that bad boy going after winning the Big 12, and it's been getting worse and worse every year.
Yeah, and then with Cincinnati, I predicted Cincinnati to be the worst team in the conference this year, and so far, that seems to be holding true. So, I had a feeling these guys weren't going to be able to come in the league in year one and compete at a high level. It's a huge adjustment when you have to play Power 5 teams week in, week out versus a group of 5 teams. And I think they're realizing that now. Plus, they had a new coach. A lot of changes there at Cincinnati. So, and that game's at home. It's on senior night, or senior day, depending on when the game is. But
how the Big 12 want to do us, right?
But they should be. But yeah, exactly. But they should be. The guys should be up for that game, and so I feel really good about them. So we should, at least get to 8 wins. If not, and if we can pull off an upset over you guys, it'd be 9 wins. That'd be a huge, huge feather in the cap for Neil Brown for sure.
Heck yeah! And at that point, it's the conversation about letting the man go, like you mentioned. You kind of got to talk about, all right, we're going to give him another year or two, especially with the young players. Let's keep this going, especially with the Big 12 changing, new teams coming in. It's going to be it's to me, it's going to be very much wide open, especially with everything. So there's a good chance you all can go in there and try to run that bad boy from the West or whatnot. Last thing, really, and I brought you on, of course, talking this game, but you have been the most vocal about the horrendousness of the Big 12 refs, man. Talk to me about that, dog. It cracks me up, but you're so spot on. It's like, try to tell y'all, man, even though they hate Oklahoma and Texas, but Couz will tell you.
We had some. It was funny. We had BYU fan or no, see, no, it was I was at the UCF game. I went to Orlando to watch the UCF game a couple weeks ago.
Okay,
and made a mini vacation out of it. But there were some people, UCF fans, sitting behind us, and they were complaining about the officiating, and which it was bad. They made some bad calls, and it went both ways. We were, some of them went our way, and man, they were like, man, these are terrible. And this guy turned to get the West Virginia famous Simon turned around and said, "Welcome to Big 12 officiating," and I'm like, boy, is that the truth. But I mean, the BYU game last week, man, oh my God, it was awful. They were calling ticky tack everything. You couldn't touch a receiver without it getting called pass interference. Wow. I mean, they were calling everything.
It was Jesus.
Yeah, and we were two of the least penalized teams in the conference coming in that game.
Right.
And I mean, they were whistle happy, man, and they were throwing flags like one play. We completed a pass downfield. We're going up to the line to snap the ball. 10 seconds had ticked off the game, the play clock. They blow the whistle and throw a flag over a penalty that occurred on the previous play. I mean, and then it took them about 5 minutes to review it to make sure they spotted the ball at the right yard line. I mean, it was awful. And of course, I know the controversy that happened. I didn't get to see the game because I was traveling. I went to the game in Morgantown and I was traveling and everything. But what the heck happened to you guys, man, as far as that PI call or whatever?
It was two of them. It was the two PIs. It was not only the Drake Stoop ones in the end zone where everybody's trying to justify and say, oh, you stepped out of bounds. I was like, but you noticed that he was starting to be pulled before he even got to the back of the end zone and then got pulled down. Mm-hmm. They didn't call. But then the pass interference on their drive when they scored at the end where the corner is shadowing the receiver, and Owens is a big boy. He's a big – I mean, I think he's listed at like 6'2", I swear he's like 6'5", 260, and he's just a monster. He's a gigantic human being. He just looks it. But he grabs the corner and throws him in his way and then topples over him, and they gave him a call, and it's like – but the corner wasn't in his lane. I get you call it if the corner cuts off his lane of traffic, but if you see the hand grab him and push him that direction, that usually means the offensive guy threw him in the way on purpose because they can get the call. Right. It's like they don't have enough referees, or they got them in the wrong spots where they can't even see where the play is happening at. That's what's killed me, because the Drake Stoops one, someone I saw on Twitter kind of broke it down and was like, the back judge was behind the goalpost, on the opposite side of the goalpost, and the other guy that was supposed to be watching him was running up, and none of them was there with a good enough vision to see what actually happened. And it's like, that's inexcusable. You're at the end zone. We're close to the end zone. You should have guys. So, did they take a ref off the field that I didn't know about?
Jay, it's bad, man. I don't understand in college football, with these conferences making hundreds of millions of dollars, can they not afford to hire full-time officials? It's baffling to me that these officials aren't full-time, and there's, these are part-timers.
No, yeah, they're all part-time, just like in the NFL. And it's what it is that honestly, they fight back. The Refs Association doesn't want to be listed as full-time, but I'm just like, but y'all got to have somebody full-time to be able to help with this, because this doesn't make any sense.
If you want to fight back, then you need to train your people better, because they're pathetic.
Right. Yeah, they're bad.
I mean, Jay, I can name calls. I can name multiple games over the years we've lost. I'm not going to say we lost them because of the penalties, but it sure as heck kept us from winning them. You know what I mean?
Fair.
From having a chance to win them at the end.
No. Agreed.
Multiple. One was against you guys. We've had a couple bad calls against TCU.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our quarterback get his helmet ripped off in front of an official.
And they didn't call anything. I didn't see nothing.
Nothing. Right in front of the. Matter of fact, the guy our quarterback. He got concussed on this was several years ago. We're still pissed about it. He got concussed on the play and ended up having to retire by the end of the year because of his concussions. And the official never called it. And it was a really tight game, too. It would have been a huge call. Playing you guys a few years ago, we had a guy get flagged for blocking out of bounds. When have you ever heard that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember that. I saw that.
It was that 59-56 game. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like,
you guys.
What?
Yeah.
Like,
and I don't know if we'd have won the game, but we were driving deep into your all's territory when that happened, and it knocked us out of getting a touchdown. So, I mean, it just and that's just two examples. There's more, but David Seals got his jersey grabbed in the end zone one time on a I don't even remember who we were playing in that one, but it's happened so many times, man. I can't even. But again, we've also benefited from a few too. I mean, it goes both ways. They're just bad. They're just terrible.
They're just overall terrible. That's exactly what we're saying. And it feels like it's the Big 12 is the worst one in college football. I think you go Big 12, ACC, and then everybody else. Yeah. It seems like they seem like to be the two worst when it comes to that. Well, Couz, thank you so much for pulling up. Let the people know where to find you. And,
absolutely. Yeah, Jay, thanks again, man. This has been a lot of fun. It's always fun to come on here and onto Sooner or Later Sports here. But find me on YouTube at Couz's Corner, where I cover West Virginia, the Big 12, a lot of conference realignment stuff. Find me on Hoops from the Hills, where I cover college basketball. You can find me on Twitter at Couz206. If you want to interact with me there, that's a lot of fun. And check out my website, Couz'sCorner.com.
Yeah, check out the website. That's the one thing that Couz needs to make sure he plugs better. But
yeah, I do, man. I don't plug it at all, hardly, to be honest. That's why I'm not making any money at it, I guess, right?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. We gotta get you better on that one. But Couz, again, thanks a bunch. We appreciate it, my man. And yeah, we'll talk probably after the game.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
Thank you.